What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to describe how you can develop a more efficient and productive practice routine with your trumpet. I feel that this is such an important topic to discuss, and I'd like to share some of my ideas that I think could at least provide a new perspective on practicing, if not change the way you practice for the better. Before we get into the video, I'd really appreciate it if you drop a like and consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so that you're not missing out on future content and are always notified when I upload. Alright, enjoy the video. The time we spend in the practice room is arguably some of the most important time spent on the trumpet. Sure, ensemble rehearsal and experience is also incredibly valuable, but it's in the practice room where we develop our fundamentals and apply those skills to our trumpet repertoire practice. With limited hours in the day and of course limited chops and endurance, maximizing what we can achieve in the practice room allows for much more efficient and productive practicing and playing in general. Before I get into practice routines and efficient practicing, I want to make it clear that you shouldn't be practicing to become a strictly routine-based player. What I mean by this is that you probably shouldn't be practicing the exact same thing or stick to a stagnant routine all the time. You shouldn't practice without goals, and you shouldn't practice without a vision for what you want to accomplish in each practice session. Phil Smith is big on this concept. As you have likely experienced, getting better at the trumpet is no easy task. At any point in our trumpet journey, certain aspects of our playing may stick out as being rather easy and solid, and other aspects of our playing may feel weaker than others. In times like these, we want to make sure that we're actually practicing what we need to personally work on. So in this case, running through the same routine every day probably isn't the best thing that you can do with your time. I'm sure that many of you are well past this concept, but keep in mind that you won't get better as a player if you only work on what you're good at. That being said, it is still good to have some easily accessible trumpet exercises that you can fall back on when specific aspects of your playing aren't performing as well as they could. Also, when it's hard to find any immediate faults in our playing, it also doesn't hurt to follow a more organized practice routine. For example, I know that lip flexibility is one of the weaker aspects in my playing at the moment, so in response to this, I'm weighing my practice on lip flexibility higher than I am my multiple tonguing because I feel that my multiple tonguing is at a better place than my lip flexibility is, just for example. When I sat in the practice rooms in early high school, I would often just open up the Arbin book or any other method book, flip through a couple of pages, and play whatever I felt like playing in the moment. This type of practicing is basically as inefficient as you can get. More recently, I recognized that I needed a more organized fashion of my practicing, so one thing I did was take a couple of important skills on the trumpet and locate exercises in various method books that worked on those specific skills. I wrote down the page and exercise number for each exercise and made a list of exercises that I could turn to when I wanted to work on a specific skill. I then input all of this data into an app that Tom Hooten, principal trumpet player of the LA Phil, recommends. This app is called Seconds Pro, and it's an interval app where you can create personalized routines. This app is probably mostly used for physical workouts, but it can also be used for any type of routine. Here is what part of my lip flexibility routine looks like in the Seconds Pro app. As you can see, I start with Alan Vizzuti Book 1, page 25, exercise 14 for 2 minutes. Before making this practice routine, I timed myself playing through each exercise so that I could record the appropriate amount of time needed to play through each exercise once or twice. The big timer at the top counts down from 2 minutes, and once that is up, I've set up a 2-minute break because I always try to rest as much as I play. After that 2-minute break is over, you can see that I move on to exercise 15 on the same page for only 30 seconds. The shorter time interval is simply because the exercise is shorter than the previous one. Then I rest for 30 seconds, and this pattern continues through the many more exercises, as you can see. I find that practicing this way gives me a much more direct path towards accomplishing what specific goal I had in mind. It also allows me to practice more efficiently and actually for longer periods of time because the time breaks consistently make sure that I'm never overdoing it. If I ever get too fatigued before a break interval is over, or I'd like to repeat an exercise more to work on something specific, I simply pause the timer until I'm ready to go on. This ability to be flexible ensures that I'm always working on what needs to get worked on. There's also no reason to practice through a set of exhausted chops, because doing just this will hinder your endurance, shorten your practice session, and also potentially lead to some bad habits, such as over-tightening and increased mouthpiece pressure. In summary, I would make sure that you're being very specific and articulate with your goals for each practice session. Focus on one or very few things in each practice session so that you're actually going into depth into the trumpet skill you're working on, and so that you aren't just skimming the surface of each trumpet fundamental each day. Touching and skimming all of your fundamentals might be good in a warm-up, but it's often better use of your time to go more in depth with each trumpet skill. Writing your goals down for each practice session can also be a great way to ensure you're staying on track with what needs to get done. Writing short practice reflections can also be helpful for you to refer to the following day when you want to review what you previously practiced, how you felt about it, and whether or not any light bulbs arose that might have helped you fix something in your playing. Remember to practice what you need to practice. Don't just play whatever you feel like playing in the moment. Take breaks when practicing so that you aren't developing bad habits. Don't practice through exhaustion thinking that it's good for your endurance. And finally, aim to spend equal time on all of your fundamentals, unless, of course, one of your fundamentals is far behind the rest. Keep in mind that many people practice differently, and separate practicing styles and routines work at varying levels of success for different people. I'm not trying to pressure you into following everything I said today. I'm just trying to share a new mindset that worked for me when I was introduced to it. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that I was able to provide at least a new perspective to more efficient and productive practicing. As always, feel free to comment down below any suggestions or requests you have for future videos. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. As I'm trying to work on building this channel and posting more often, doing just that really helps me out. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video.